Zandvoort just a couple days away, let's get into all the important stuff coming out right before Zandvoort. And it's not a lot of silly season stuff, but apparently there's new rumors on where Alex Palau might go, Alpine actually getting a new sponsorship, some rumors in Lance Stroll, and the claims being made by Mercedes about the 2026 engine regulations. First thing I wanted to get into was Alpine. I found this quite interesting to start off with because they actually are having a kind of sponsorship partnership with Reddit. Them actually having this partnership with Reddit I think is pretty interesting. What they're kind of doing is just having a digital avatar that'll be across the site, 10 different variations of it as a partnership launching on the site. You can download this and use it on the platform. I find this pretty interesting because why would they go with Reddit of all people? We see more and more teams venturing into more digital websites. I mean, we see with Kick now on the Alfa Romeo car, going into the whole entire world of social media. And I think more and more as really Formula One continues as a sport, it will keep going into the direction of social media platforms and stuff like this, like some collaborations with Reddit and appealing to more younger audiences. I think it makes a lot of sense. Next up is the rumors that we get every single week about Lance Stroll. Well, you want to hear the new one? The new rumor is that he is switching to tennis. Can you believe that this is kind of what they're talking about? So apparently Lance Stroll will be the new Novak Djokovic and he will be a lot better and actually win across the board and be the new go of tennis. I'm obviously joking, but this is actually what is being talked about, that there is a current rumor in the paddock that Lance Stroll is wanting to switch to tennis. Well, this is recently coming out because he talked about Fernando Alonso just being the quicker driver and that he needs to adapt and become a lot faster. I like this article because he actually was able to speak very truthfully about where he's been in the season, giving himself some bad races, giving himself some decent races. I kind of agree. It's kind of been a up and down season for Lance, mostly down, and I think he says that about himself as well, saying that he just has to find the pace that Fernando has had on him the whole entire season. I think it's mainly been through tire management and not being able to run the car as fast for a longer period of time, which something Fernando is a monster at, and considerably a lot of drivers on the grid can't do what Fernando does, so I don't blame Lance for being the slower driver, but he needs to pick up because he's in a top team essentially now, and as the article even points out, he does belong in the grid. I don't think any of these 20 drivers don't, but to belong in a team like Aston Martin is pretty crazy. And then we got my favorite guy, Matthew Thompson, who loves to spit nonsense. I mean, it's a guy that's probably like a fan account for Fernando Alonso. It's been talking a lot about news articles and stuff. He says Alex Palau is the next guy to be replacing Lance Stroll at Aston Martin. So I don't actually believe this to be true. I think that Alex Palau is far from going into Aston Martin. I think the best replacement that they could look for, if let's say Lance leaves after 2024 and 2025, they're looking for a replacement. I think they go with somebody like a Ricciardo, another older vet, somebody that's a great driver. I think they could even look into maybe a Lewis Hamilton, depending on the situation over there at Mercedes. There's a lot of options to go upon, maybe Leclerc. They need to grab some talent that will bring them to that next level in 2026 because they could be big title contenders then. They could also fight in 24 and 25, but the most realistic option is 26 for that Aston Martin team. I don't think Palau is that guy. Using the actual Alfa Romeo livery, here are some pictures of it, of the front wing and the actual side pod. You see the little Bottas thing that they added. They had the little Zandvoort. Very digitalized. You can tell that this is with the Kick collaboration because they had that kind of crazy graffiti-like livery in the beginning of the year. This essentially goes as like the same thing, but in smaller parts, which I don't mind it. I think the Alfa Romeo livery is the most beautiful livery on the grid as of right now. So adding to it and trying to put different pieces is unnecessary, but I don't mind it. I always like the cars looking a little bit different, whether it's ugly or awesome. I think it's cool to have a variety of liveries throughout the year. I also wanted to cover a little bit more on Max Verstappen and the whole entire situation of him almost getting arrested, what's actually happening with that, prosecuted, all that BS. The whole entire thing of him getting arrested or prosecuted, it won't happen. I mean, it's just kind of a rumor going around and people are just trying to put out things to make it more dramatic than it actually is. It's not gonna happen. The actual chance of him getting prosecuted and being put into jail is like 0.0001. And if that was to happen, he would win the Formula One championship from jail. He'd be the first guy to do that. So let's give another record to Max Verstappen. Why not? Why not? He's already had the most historic season of 2023 and probably will go on to beat the record of Vettel, probably beat his win record that he made last year, and just continue this Red Bull success. So, hey, let's give him a challenge. Can he win from jail? That would be a new type of way of winning in Formula One. Can't ban him from jail. He hasn't been racing. Can't crash, can't lose out points, right? Well, besides the jokes, it's not going to happen. They caught him for going over 25, I think, kph. In a 90 zone, he was going like 124, so I guess it's 35, but the article here claims that it was 20 to 25. So he was going over that speed limit, and the car that he was driving was the AMR Valkyrie, which is a beaut. It is such a beautiful car. I mean, any Aston Martin car is beautiful, but this one in specific is outstanding. It's practically, if there was a Formula One car as a car, this is it. It's as close as you can get. Designed by Adrian Newey, thing flies. $3 million car. He was driving it. You're supposed to drive his car with a helmet. He had on like some headphones from the looks of it. I'll show you the picture up here. People are trying to claim that he was endangering the lives of people, which, come on. It's just such a bad article, honestly, and bad rumors being spoken. Nothing's gonna happen to Max. He's all good. Lastly, I wanted to get into the 2026 F1 engine claims. Now, as you saw in the title, Mercedes is making some kind of, they really want to speak more about the analysis and effects going into the 2026 F1 power unit regulations. And with everything that Mike Elliott kind of puts out in this article, I agree to all of it. He says the cars need to be lighter. He says they kind of need to look into whether the cars are going to have that Frankenstein effect that Christian Horner was talking about. He talks about the cars needing to lighten down on the weight because the actual tire loads they're taking, it's too much for the tires, and it's not, I guess, effective downforce in that type of weight. With a lighter car, they'd be able to go through corners faster and it would make the racing a lot more entertaining. And I agree. I mean, if we look at Cops, which is a Silverstone corner that's famously known across years and years and years, you had to lift off just a little bit going into qualifying, 99% of the time. You had extreme cars like the W11, you have extreme cars like this RB19, but nowadays, actually not just RB19, but the AMR23, the MCL60, the W14, they were all able to take that flat. And that's not a corner that's typically flat. You have to lift off it at least a little bit. Now that's great. The aerodynamics in the car are that important. You can take certain corners flat and really put out the most out of the car, but it puts a lot of load in the tires and it does not provide more racing lines in the races. Nowadays, you can't even go for that. It'll just be understeer heaven. You don't get off the throttle and another incident will happen. We don't have that racing line. Not that that was a great corner to overtake anyways, but that's one example of many that where the racing lines just don't exist anymore. It's one practically racing line throughout the whole entire actual racetrack itself, and it doesn't allow for better overtaking because the cars are so aerodynamically efficient. Now, that's a great thing, but if they were lighter, it would allow for different lines and different takes. And I agree with everything the Mercedes chief is really talking about in these regulations, and I'd like to hear what you guys actually think about it. More analysis. They say in about a couple of months, we're gonna get more news on these regulations, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you guys think? Please leave a like, subscribe, it would mean the world, and peace.